Good morning on this absolutely spectacular day in Washington, D.C. Welcome, the metropolitan Washington area, listening in at 1480 WPWC Radio. Welcome to the Rock Newman Show. We have a great program for you today. We're going to start the morning with Councilmember Muriel Bowser. Last week, just at the time that the current mayor, Vince Gray, was on this program, Muriel Bowser was announcing, Councilmember from Ward 4, Muriel Bowser, was announcing her candidacy to become the next mayor of Washington, D.C. So I'm going to run down the lineup here and then come back and jump right in with a full hour-long conversation with a council member and mayoral candidate Muriel Bowser. In the second hour, there is a raging controversy in hip-hop music. Rick Ross and Lil Wayne both have been thoroughly castigated and criticized for lyrics. Back in February, Lil Wayne made some comments that everyone thought were demeaning and derogatory to the legacy of Emmett Till. And more recently, Rick Ross talks about slipping a Molly in somebody's champagne, and she didn't even know it, and then he went home and he enjoyed it, and she didn't even know it. Well, there's a radio station that is leading the charge in Michigan. It is WVS 103.7 The Beat, as in Muskegon, Michigan. They have pulled all of Lil Wayne's and Rick Ross's music from their rotation. There will be a number of folks here discussing that particular issue. And in the third hour, a really interesting hour, something that is relevant to all of us and to everyone in this society is parenting. And we're going to do a show on parenting, and my extremely special guest in studio will be Robert and Jackie Griffin. And if you don't know them by name, they are the parents of RG3 and his two daughters. They will be joining us here in studio at 1918 Martin Luther King Avenue, WEAC Radio. Also joining us will be Sanjeev Shiram. He is a Harvard Fellow and a former Chief Resident of Pediatrics at UCLA. So let me give you the number in the event you'd like to join any of these conversations, all of which I promise you will be very interesting. Let me first say something about Councilmember Muriel Bowser. When I talked to her team, Bill Lightfoot and Ben Soto, and then when I talked to Muriel, I was, if I can call you Muriel.
Please do.
Welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
Thank
First
you,
of
Rock.
all.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. When I talked to them and talked to Muriel, I told them very candidly that I had made a declaration, and the declaration that I had made prior to Mayor Gray coming on, and when he was here, that it was my sense that if his performance the next 2 years equate to his performance in the 2 years since he's been in office, that I personally thought, in my humble or not so humble opinion, I thought that he would deserve an additional 4 years. And I wanted you and your team to be aware of the position that I took, because I know saying that to some political candidates, they would say, hell no, you said that, I don't want any part of this. And to your credit, and to your team's credit, that you did not flinch, and here you are. Let me welcome you once again to the Rock Newman Show.
Well, thank you, Rock, and thanks for having me. And of course, we want the opportunity to talk to all voters all across the city. Even I know you have a lot of listeners all across the region about what our vision is for the District of Columbia. After all, that's what elections are all about. We have one every 4 years. People go out and talk to voters about what they see for the future of the city, and that's exactly what we intend to do over the next year.
Okay, let's jump in, because I'm going to approach this interview as if, for the most part, folks from the area, from Washington, D.C., may not know who you are.
Sure.
So we want to know Muriel Bowser.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
And I want to go, like, as they say in that song, but I want to go way back, way back. And that would be, I want to ask you, your first memory as a child.
Wow.
What's like the first thing you remember?
Well, I remember, being with my family. I think probably are the first memories. I'm a child of this city, born and raised, grew up in North Michigan Park. There are 5 kids, and we had a very DC experience, I would say.
Let me ask you, I remember when I was 4 years old, the ambulance coming to the house to get my father. And that was just that's like seared in my head. Any one particular something like that stands out, good, bad, otherwise?
Well, it's interesting. I just had this conversation last week. Somebody asked me, what was the first school you went to? And I went to Brookland School, and it's a big discussion about what's going to happen to Brookland School now in Ward 5. And I remember very distinctly, and I ran into this lady who had been the principal there, and she hadn't seen me since I was 5 years old, and we had a chat. But I remember just the older kids at the school would do home ec and cook for us and come and share what they had down in Brookland School. And now, full circle, we have the opportunity to decide what's going to be the future of that school and the Turkey Thicket campus.
If you keep on working, good things will happen.
Absolutely.
Muriel Bowser's saddest moment as a child.
I have to tell you, Rock, I had, the type of childhood I wish for every child in this city. I had 2 parents that loved me, great example of love and faith and what that can do in your life. I'm the youngest of 5, so my next closest sibling is 9 years older than me, and I'm the baby.
Oh, you the baby.
I'm the baby. So I have to tell you, I had it pretty good growing up.
Us babies.
Yes.
Get some.
I knew there was something I liked about you.
Us babies get some advantages.
Yes.
My oldest brother is 12 years older than me.
Okay.
His nickname was Baby.
Okay.
My mom was 46 when I was born.
Okay.
And she told the doctor when the doctor told her that she was pregnant. She said, "Oh no, doctor, that's got to be a very big mistake." Fast forward 40 years, and Mike Wallace from CBS was interviewing her. They did something. 60 Minutes did something on us, and he asked her. He said, "So what did you tell the doctor?" She said, "I told the doctor that, oh no, I can't be pregnant. That must be a mistake." And Mike Wallace, being the mischievous guy that he was, said, "Well, what happened to that mistake?" And she said, "He's sitting right over there." So I understand sort of the benefits, and sometimes what even might be the jealousies of the other siblings for the benefits that the baby might get. I was going to ask you, and you may have described it even here now, because if I ask you, the saddest moment, I've got to ask you, as a child, was there a single most happy moment? Well,
I'll tell you, just kind of skipping forward a little bit. And my brother, when he introduced me last week for my announcement, he talked about one, and I was a grown woman by this time, but my folks had a really significant fire at their house, and I got a call from my mom, and she was, she said, there's a fire in the basement. We called the police. We called the ambulance and 911, and they're on their way. And we were trying to figure out what happened. Now, I live about 5 minutes from them, and as soon as I opened my door, I could hear the fire engine screaming towards their house. And so by the time I got there, a sense of calm had really come over me, because I knew they were okay, and I knew that they were out of the house, and I knew that whatever we found there, we would be able to fix. So it's those types of memories, and when I think about my family and how important it is, and the values they instilled in me, to be and love Washington, I know that's what we want to share all across the city.
And I want to share the telephone number here if you want to be a part of the conversation. Give us a call on the Rock Newman Show at 202-889-9797. Let me do that again. 202-889-9797. Now, you mentioned, excuse me, going to Brooklyn School.
I did.
That's something else. In us knowing Muriel Bowser, take us through. You went to, was that elementary, junior high?
No, I went there as a pre-K and kindergartner.
Okay.
And I will tell you, at the time, now, like, I'm the last of 5. My sister is 16 years older than me. And my parents made the decision, both DCPS graduates, my mother from Cardozo, my father from Armstrong, that my sister was at Bunker Hill at the time. And my mom thought that she needed more, and we needed more. So they made the decision that time to take us into parochial schools. We're Catholic, and that's where I went all the way through high school.
And so you went to Brooklyn all the way through high school?
No, I went to Brooklyn, and then I went to St. John's, and then I graduated from Elizabeth Seton.
Oh, okay. Now, so St. John's, what, 9 through 12?
1 through 8.
Okay.
And then I went to a school called the Academy of the Holy Names, which closed in my sophomore year, and I graduated from Elizabeth Seton.
Is it true what they say about Catholic school girls?
That were very smart and hardworking?
No, that's it.
Yes, it's true.
Who during those years prior to your getting to college, who was your favorite teacher and why? This gives me a chance to say my all-time favorite teacher in the world was Miss Gladys Nickens, and she's watching down in Jacksonville, Florida right now. So that's a shout out to you, 10th grade English teacher extraordinaire. I love you. Who was your favorite teacher
Can I
and why?
have 2? Okay.
Well, you can.
All right. One was my second grade teacher. Her name was Sister Betty. And she was just extraordinary, and I'll remember till this day how she drilled in us the multiplication tables. She drilled in us, our reading and math, and I'll always remember that. But more than that, she taught us how to get along as kids. And one way that she socialized us was every month we had a taco party. And so that was fun. My next favorite teacher, I will have to say, her name was Patty Parachini, and she taught me in the 9th grade. I forget was
Was that Sister?
No,
Patty
it was
Parachini?
Miss Patty Parachini.
Okay.
And she taught us how to write in a way that honestly I still rely on some of her techniques as a 40-year-old woman.
Like what?
Just how to structure an argument and how to write, and it's instilled in me anytime I talk about schools and education. I don't care what focus you have in high school, if it's STEM, if it's arts. I don't care what you study in college, whether you're a liberal arts person like me or you study something more technical like engineering. I think we have to teach our children how to think critically, how to write well, and how to persuade others, because those qualities and that ability translates into so many things. And I think we've lost that somewhat in how we educate our kids.
I've taken the position, and I've written publicly, if you will, Facebook and other places, that aside from the parents in a home, I think the number one most important job in the world is that of a mom. And dad follows right behind that. But that the third single most important job is that of a teacher.
Absolutely.
The influence that they can have, and that I know that teachers had on me, it is something that I've just always had such admiration for. So those kinds of things, I've got folks, producers here telling me, hey, let's start talking, let's get into the present about what's happening. But you know what? To understand a candidate that is going to lead the city, I frankly think that it's important to try to appreciate and understand and have information about backgrounds which forms who you are today and the kind of leader that you're going to be.
Sure.
So okay, so you we're into high school, and you went to college where and studied what?
I went to college in Pittsburgh, a school called Chatham College, and there I studied history. I worked worked for a period of time in Pennsylvania. I was in the insurance industry. I quickly learned that that wasn't for me, and I decided to come back home and go to graduate school. I went to American University, where I have a master's degree in public policy.
And your undergraduate degree?
Is in history.
Now, was Chatham a Catholic school also?
No, it's not a Catholic school. It's a when I was there, it was a women's liberal arts college, and focused on, the arts and humanities and the liberal arts. And I'm so grateful for that experience, because when you're in a same-sex educational situation, all the women you see are in leadership. The president of the college, the student government president. I had the opportunity while I was there to be the Black Student Union president for a couple of terms, and the leadership skills that I developed, I think, are second to none.
Is that what you feel from your undergrad years, your greatest takeaway? Was that the most important, where you feel you started to develop real leadership skills there?
Well, Rock, I have to tell you, I probably have been running for something for a long time. In high school and college, I was an ANC commissioner, and I've been privileged for the last 6 years to run and win 3 elections and to represent a great ward. So yes, I think I've developed a lot of leadership skills along the way. But looking at my folks, my first example of great leadership and commitment to this city.
Okay, so you come back, you find out quickly, like I did, that selling insurance, in the insurance business, that wasn't your cup.
It wasn't for me.
That wasn't your cup of
That
tea.
wasn't my calling.
I flirted with that shortly after college.
Although,
also.
I have to tell you, I worked for a great company, and they loved me, and I knew I could, go far there, but I wanted to use my skills and talents to really do something that I loved.
So you come back to D.C.
Yep.
You go to American University.
I did.
You get a degree in public policy.
I do.
What was your great takeaway from that? I mean, how do you place that in terms of importance in your maturation process?
Well, I think it's important to get focused on what you want to do. I think at that point I knew that I wanted to be in government, and I think I knew that I wanted to be in local government. So I wanted to make sure that I got all the skills, whether, I was in a very statistics-based program. So if I say something, I want to figure out how I can prove it or gather the evidence. So that was important. We did a lot of focus on political theory, local history even. I saw you had Paul Strauss here
Yes.
recently. He actually taught me a class at American University.
Is that right?
If you can believe it. And we did a lot of local D.C. history. I think even Marion Barry was a guest of the class at that time. So it was important to get grounded in statistics, get grounded in political history, so that when you talk about these things, there's some background there.
Yeah. Okay, so we are through your career. Now you're just graduated from grad school at American University in public policy. That gave you a foundation. Part of our foundation here at the Rock Newman Show is we have to pay some bills.
I hear you.
From time to time. So we are going to take a break. I want to give you the telephone number. Call us up. We've got one line open at 202-889-9797. We'll see you after these very important messages.
Find out when the discussion continues after this on The Rock Newman Show.
My baby drives a pro-handcuff.
The weekend is here, and no matter what the weather's like outside, you'll find the deals inside here in the beautiful showroom of the all-new Pohanka Hyundai in Capitol Heights during their giant Markdown Madness sale.
Smart shoppers know that every new Hyundai in Pohanka comes with Hyundai Assurance and America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. But why don't you tell them about the Markdown sale, Joe?
I'll be happy to, Kim. Folks, shop around on the web, and you'll see lease payments on a new 2013 Elantra GLS at $179 a month. Today at Pohanka Hyundai, $99 a month. That's right, a $99 payment on a brand new Elantra Elantra.
And $89 a month on a new 2013 Accent GLS Automatic. How do they do it, Joe?
It must be the volume, Kim. A brand new building, hundreds of new Hyundais, and Pohanka's low payment and easy credit programs are designed to get everybody driving. But you have to get here today. Rush to the giant Markdown Madness sale at exit 13 off the Capitol Beltway.
Pohanka Hyundai, king of the Beltway. All financing for a limited term on approved HMF credit.
My baby drives a Pohanka.
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, I like it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. No, we need it. Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. Hit me.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get to Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. What we need? Soul Food. Henry Soul Food. We want it. Soul Food.
Giving you the real on everything from politics, sports, and common everyday life issues. This is The Rock Newman Show.
I'm Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico. Last year, my state became the 12th state to allow medical use of marijuana by patients who are seriously ill. Some people were surprised that a Republican governor supports medical marijuana, but I'm hardly alone. Groups like the American College of Physicians, American Nurses Association, and American Public Health Association have all acknowledged the medical value of marijuana. New research about medical marijuana is coming out almost every day, showing remarkable potential in all sorts of serious conditions, including cancer, AIDS, and chronic pain. But some in government still want to put politics and ideology ahead of public health. To learn more about medical marijuana and what you can do to help, contact the Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or visit them on the web at mpp.org. Thanks.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at WEAC Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you could want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast DC.
Real talk, real issues, real life.
I got a new sheriff in town.
We now return to The Rock Newman Show.
Hi, this is Mia. I can't wait until me going to DC in a couple days away. I love you and I miss you so much. I can't wait. Bye. Love you.
Let us come right back. We've got a lot to get through here today. Right now in studio is Ward 4 council member for Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser. And on last Saturday, she threw her hat in the ring and was the first candidate to announce for the run for mayor of Washington, D.C., which I have, from an up-close perspective, called the most difficult job in America. Let me ask you, first let me give out the number again, 202-889-9797. Today is March 30th, 2013. It is a spectacular day here in sunny Washington, D.C. and the DMV area. So, Muriel, if I can come back to you, what was your motivation and inspiration to get into the topsy-turvy, crazy world of elected politics?
Well, you know, Rock, I said, I always knew I'd be in government. I always knew I'd be in local government, but I didn't always know that I'd be in elected office until I got in local government. I worked in Montgomery County and around this region for 10 years in various capacities in transportation planning and downtown redevelopment. And then I ran for a volunteer elected position in my own neighborhood as an advisory neighborhood commissioner. And then it became very clear to me that
Can I stop you for a second? Because I know a lot of people see the letters ANC.
Sure.
And not so often do they know even what ANC means. Tell us what ANC stands for.
Sure.
And what an ANC member does.
Well, and our home rule charter created an elected position called Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner. And it's completely volunteer. There's no pay involved. But your name would appear on the ballot every 2 years, and your neighbors can decide if they want you to represent them. ANC commissioner in the district represents about 2,000 voters, and the positions are completely advisory. So, and they can comment on anything from zoning issues to the budget to ABC, our ABRA board issues involving liquor and wine licenses, and they are entitled to, by law, great weight. And what great weight means is a district official has to look at what they've said, and if we don't agree with what they've said, we have to tell them why, or we have to incorporate their recommendations into our policy decisions.
You know one thing? Probably you just educated a lot of folks in D.C. who, again, see those letters, but really they just don't know what it means. Let us go to the line. We're getting backed up here, so let us go to the line. We have Karen on from Washington, D.C. You're on the line. Please turn your radio down and speak clearly.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. I was calling to ask Councilmember Bowser a question. And the question is, what are some of your most favorite accomplishments on the council so far?
Sure. Well, I've had the opportunity on the council to
thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen, to have leadership in a variety of issues. First, as the chairwoman of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, where we really pushed through comprehensive foreclosure legislation that protected D.C. residents from predatory lenders and required mediation. I had the opportunity to chair the Parks and Recreation Committee for a short time, but we were still able to get something through that I think is going to be very important for the district in the long run, that will allow our parks to generate revenue to support our programs. And I most recently was the chair of the Committee on Government Operations, where our big responsibility was to pull together ethics reform legislation for the entire city at a very critical time. And so we were able to do that. Now, I think I have the responsibility that's closest to my passion, and that's being the chair of the Committee on Economic Development, where we're going all across the city and making sure, like great corridors like Martin Luther King Avenue, Georgia Avenue, Rhode Island Avenue, are getting the type of attention in public investment as well as private investment to make those corridors great.
You know, you mentioned, and again, thank you, caller. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
You mentioned ethics reform, and there has been the criticism, I would suggest that a lot of it valid, perhaps some of it over the top, of our local elected officials. And, here at the Rock Newman Show, we name names. We talk about the real stuff. because I think we should. The ethics reform that you initiated, that you authored, that you sponsored, is that what you have done and what has been established from that initiative? Is that something that, by its very nature, would have prevented the kind of chicanery of what Harry Thomas got involved in?
Well, actually, Rock, what our legislation does and what all good legislation should do is look to the future and prevent, or do as much as possible to prevent bad activity. I think we know that if somebody's been on breaking the rules, they're going to do it no matter what. But what our law does is set up a new regime, a board that is empowered to investigate independently any violations of our code of conduct. It sets up very specific penalties to address that behavior, and that's important too. We were also able to better fund our Office of Campaign Finance so that they're just not reacting, but they're proactively making sure that the rules are enforced. I think it's a great step in making sure we have a robust system of rules and people to enforce them, to give the public a better sense of trust for their public officials.
Who's been the most influential person in your political career?
Well, there have been so many people that have inspired me along the way, and we can look to our own ward for great examples of people. Charlene Jarvis, who led our ward for 20 years, Adrian Fenty, who set an example of top constituent services, Linda Kropp, who was a woman leader of the council, who people still miss her leadership on the city council, and certainly I admire what Tony Williams was able to do in setting bold goals and a vision that we're now seeing pay dividends all across the District of Columbia, which is so important. But I was just with my friend here in Ward 8 for his State of the Ward address, and his inspiration to a lot of people in our city is also important, and that we have to make sure that as we grow, we're bringing everybody along with us and not leaving whole neighborhoods and whole wards behind.
You said your friend in Ward 8. Mm-hmm. Who are you referring to?
The council member and the former mayor.
Oh, you talking about
Marion Barry.
Marion Barry. And you talking about Marion Barry.
That's what I'm talking about.
Karen asked, and you had a chance to elaborate on a question I was going to ask was about your biggest triumph. Was it anything else? I mean, I thought you covered that. Well,
I wanted to talk about certainly what the things that we were down on the council in terms of legislation. I think the biggest job of a legislator is to fill the gaps in the law, not to go over the top, and we do that on the council sometimes. The number of laws that we pass that don't have any impact on people's lives, I think is, we need to watch out for. But we've also had tremendous success in our ward, and when I look across Ward 4, I know that we can have those successes in other places. We have issues with neighborhood development. You know that you've heard people say, what's going to happen with Georgia Avenue for 40 years? Yeah. And finally, we're starting to see those types of investments in new grocery stores and the total transformation of the Walter Reed campus and new housing being built that's affordable and is for seniors. And that's what we need to see across the city.
I was going to do it in the reverse order, but since Karen asked the question first, and you've had a chance to elaborate on that, what's your biggest disappointment as a politician?
Wow. My biggest disappointment, I guess, is that we can't move fast enough. When we look at our school reform efforts, for example, we've made some big changes. We've invested in and we made the tough decision for mayoral control of our schools, which gives the mayor and the chancellor the singular line of accountability to get things done. We've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in school construction. Yet 5 years later, the improvements and outcomes for children has been stubborn, and the investments across the city have been unequal. So I would, as mayor, redouble my efforts to make sure that we're investing equally across our city, and we're setting the big goals. We, instead of seeing the gap between black kids and white kids get smaller, we've seen it get bigger, and that's unacceptable.
Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to go, Mayor Gray left a document, and it's the Gray administration Year 2 report. And I'll kind of quickly read through this. That when Mayor Vincent Gray took office January 2011, he promised to focus on creating jobs, reducing unemployment, and growing the district economy while educating and preparing residents for jobs in emerging industries, improving the quality of life for all of our residents. Throughout his 2 years in office, using the One City Action Plan as a guide, Mayor Gray has continued aggressively to move D.C. forward towards his vision of a more prosperous, equitable, safe, sustainable city for all on Mayor Gray's watch. Now, I'd like for you to react to these things here. He has 5 bullet points. The district's economy is booming, with more than 28,000 private sector jobs created over the past 2 years, and the unemployment rate falling by nearly 3 percentage points. Now, do you see that? You agree with that? You disagree with that? What kind of reaction do you have to that?
Well, I think that we've seen the national unemployment rates go down, and we have to thank President Obama for his commitment to spending when spending was very important in some tough economic times. So I'm grateful that we've had that kind of federal government spending, which has, helped with our contractors that rely on the federal government to keep people employed and to even hire additional people. So that's important. Also, though, know that we have to focus on, while in some parts of the city unemployment is at the national average or below the national average, like in my ward, there are other parts of the city, like where we are right now, where it exceeds the national average and approaches 20%, and at one time it was close to 30% of the people that are unemployed.
And as mayor, because that's real.
That's
over
real.
Here, folks in Ward 8 are hurting.
Absolutely.
Unemployment is, terribly high. As mayor, how would you impact that and make that better?
Well, I think as a government, we employ over 30,000 people in our government. And one thing I know about folks is they want to work. They want a chance. And they have some employment hurdles to get over in some cases. So I think the D.C. government has to do more for our returning citizens, for example. How are we going to help them get over those hurdles? We haven't figured that out yet. For people who don't have employment experience, is there something the government can do to help them get that experience? We've had some fits and starts here and there with project empowerment, for example. But, we have a program in our city, the LEAF program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But it is, when this leaf season, our city cleans up leaves, and we hire people temporarily to do it. And you know how bad people want those jobs? Every time the leaf season comes around, I have folks calling me up and says, I want to get on that list to do that. So what that tells me is people want to work, and we have to figure out as a government how to get them involved. I also sit on the Metro board. Metro, big organization, regional organization, over 11,000 people. We have to get more D.C. residents hired. So I think our Department of Employment Services can do more to help train and get our folks ready to take advantage of those Metro jobs. Why can't our folks be those bus drivers? Why can't our folks do those other jobs at Metro that have great benefits and a chance for a middle-class life?
Okay, we want to continue, but again, we got to pay some bills. Maybe I should have booked you for 2 hours.
I'll come back.
This, again, is the Rock Newman Show. Don't touch that dial. Don't touch that computer. All of you that are watching around the world will be back in just a moment.
The Rock Newman Show will be back after this.
Pohanka Acura's huge March sales event is going on now. Get one of the new 2013 TLs for as low as $199 per month, or get the brand new 2013 MDX for only $254 a month. Come find out why price and selection have made Pohanka the world's largest.
Take Action News with David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
Well, for me, it's always been, you report the facts. You report like hell, let the chips fall where they may. And the truth ultimately is what's going to sort of help our society and help all of us. I don't think progressives want a thumb on the scale on the facts. They just want the facts out there. You let the facts out, and progressives will tell you, we're going to win 70% of the time. You may quibble with the percentages or whatnot, but I think that's just sort of what progressives are looking for, and I think that's where this all sort of meshes with my interest as a journalist. And my interest as a journalist is report the facts. Here's what's going on. Here's what the facts say. Here's what history says. Here are the lessons we know we have learned. And let people draw their own conclusions. And I think what's so unfortunate right now in the world of broadcast media is I do think that a lot of conservative radio, certainly conservative television, they're not interested in facts. And that's ultimately where I think conservative media is going to have its downfalls. That Americans are hungry. They're just hungry for basic information, hungry for basic facts. You report like hell, you let the chips fall where they may. I think it's natural for all of us who care, who are passionate about politics, who feel like we have a sense about the difference between right and wrong. I think it's okay to let that be part of your coverage. It's important for all of us as broadcasters and journalists. In this day and age, we have to be authentic. You can't be the person who's up in the ivory tower that comes down and tells people, now you must eat your peas. No, it's all about, we all have personalities, and I think it's being aware sometimes of our own bias, but also being open to the idea that sometimes we're wrong. But we have a dialogue, and we have a passionate dialogue, and we care about this country, we care about this community, and I think that sort of passion is what carries us through.
Hear more from David Schuster, Saturdays from 12 to 3 on Take Action News on We Act Radio, 1480 AM and weactradio.com.
The prodigal son of the DMV is back. Ladies and gentlemen, show your love for Rock Newman on The Rock Newman Show.
June 27th is National HIV Testing Day.
HIV testing is fast, painless, and often free.
I've been tested for HIV.
I've been tested for HIV. Have you? To find an HIV testing center near you, visit greaterthan.org.
We Act Radio is a very proud partner of the Start at Westminster, a harm reduction, prevention, and awareness initiative sponsored by the Westminster Presbyterian Church right here in D.C. START stands for Syringe, Treatment, Advocacy, Resources, Training. These are the core elements of the harm reduction philosophy at START. The goal of this program is to reduce transmissions of HIV, hepatitis, and other bloodborne infectious diseases by empowering those at risk of infection with the tools, resources, and referrals they need to take charge of their health. Over the past year, the Start at Westminster tested over 1,600 people, and they're averaging about 150 tests each month. And of course, with the proper funding, that number could go even higher. For more information on this terrific program, go to www.startatwestminster.org or visit the Westminster Presbyterian Church, 400 I Street Southwest, right here in Washington, D.C.
The conversation that some people just don't care to have. We now rejoin the discussion on The Rock Newman Show.
Hi, this is Mia. I just remembered that tomorrow I don't have any school, so I was wondering if we can hang out. But if you have plans, that's okay. Bye, love you.
Ain't she too sweet? That's sweet. That's my baby. This is the Rock Newman Show. In studio with us this morning is Muriel Bowser, Councilmember from Ward 4, Washington, D.C., and on last Saturday, she threw her hat in the ring to become Washington, D.C.'s next mayor. Let's go right to the audience, and we have a question from the audience for Councilmember and Mayoral Candidate Muriel Bowser.
Yes, my name is Crystal, and I'm a Ward 7 district resident. Councilmember Bowser, you threw your hat into the ring last weekend, and my question is, how will you win in 2014, and what will separate you from the other candidates that will run?
Well, thank you. Well, I don't know who's going to run. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the only one running. And what we're going to do, and the reason why we're...
Right now you are.
I am. It's a true statement. And let's keep it that way. How about that? But what we're going to do, Rock, for the next year, and Crystal, thank you for that question, is go to every ward, every neighborhood, and talk to every voter. You know, I've gotten that question a couple of times. How are you going to win? What's your strategy? Are you going to target this? Are you going to target that? I don't want to be the mayor of the District of Columbia for a small slice of people. I want to be the mayor of the District of Columbia for all of the people. And in all of my campaigns, that's been our approach. And this one's going to be that and more.
There has been so much talk, and you hear it all the time, and I think it's only fair that we address it here also. Been so much talk about, I'd ask you about, your influences, and you said Charlene Drew Jarvis, and you mentioned Adrian and other people. Still, folks continue to talk about Adrian's influence, that your political team was very involved with Adrian's political career. I want to ask you something, because I thought that Adrian Fenty for the most part, did a good job as mayor. I thought that there was a disconnect from people, and I remember engaging Adrian in a discussion just about what was going on with the Tennyson Learning Center and the people that were involved in that, and former member, First Lady Corberry, and the support of that they had for the center from Maya Angelou and Dorothy Height and crew in that. I gave him, again, humble or not so humble advice. I said, Adrian, man, a public relations tsunami is going to hit you if you don't be more careful about how you address this issue and how you handle those ladies. And he gave me some advice. He said, enjoy Las Vegas. And I did. And then he lost. And certainly I'm not saying I had anything to do with any of that. Why did he lose in 2010?
Well, I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned, Rock, from that election, and certainly from Mayor Fenty's 4 years in office. I think some good ones and some tough ones. And part of the lesson that I learned is to stay connected, stay in touch, and to listen. And another lesson that I learned is that mayors have to make tough decisions, and that people will come along with you even when the decisions are tough, if they understand them. So it makes sense to go out and explain and get people to understand all the information that you have and why you are moving in a certain direction. So I think one of the biggest lessons learned is to make sure that you're constantly communicating and constantly explaining what you see as the mayor, because there's nobody in the city that has that vantage point. What you see as the mayor as the necessary steps to get us where we need to go.
As a mayor, on a scale of 1 to 10, and then I'm going to leave Fenty. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you have rated his mayorship?
Well, I think he got a lot of good and important things done. I think that there's been no other mayor who was able to get control of the schools, and I think that's important no matter who the mayor is, that we have singular accountability for how our schools move forward. Tony Williams tried, and he wasn't able to get it. That wasn't important. I think that his focus on transforming recreation and park space was important. Being progressive about transportation issues was important. So I think history will certainly be the judge. The voters made a decision. I respect the decision of the voters, and I'm ready to look to the future. And that's what we know all elections are about, the future.
On that same scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate Vince Gray's performance as mayor?
Again, I think that we will really know about the performance of this administration, some years down the pike, when we see how some of their plans take shape.
So, are you talking about between now and the time that the next election comes, or are you talking about even sometime after that?
I think it could be sometime after that, because when you look around the city even now, we're really seeing the impact of Tony Williams. really seeing the impact of Tony Williams and the plans that he made for whether it be NOMA or Southwest or attracting 100,000 new residents. We're really starting to see that take shape now.
So would your position be that neither Adrian or Mayor Gray could take credit for some of what's going on now?
Some of what's going on now.
I'm talking about some of the good, because you
absolutely.
You walk around town, and I said this last week. You see these cranes, and of course the mayor had the numbers on them. He said, "Yeah, it's 59 of them out there, and the city is booming." And so I know that you're running for this contest.
You bet.
And you're running hard, and that's a good thing. But you don't feel as if there is any credit to be given to what the mayor has, how the mayor has performed the last couple of years?
I think there's a lot of credit to go around, and certainly we can look back to our previous mayors. We can look back to our previous councils and members of the council. I think when I look at Charlene and I see some of the things that are happening downtown, like the convention center and what's happening around the convention center, I know it was her leadership when she was the chairman of the Economic Development Committee those many years ago. We even can thank the control board for some of the successes that we're seeing in terms of our fiscal health. And yes, I think there's a lot of credit to go around.
Talk to us about statehood.
Sure. We need it.
How are we going to get it?
I scratched my head about this, Rock, and I had a lot of time to think about it being retained by the Capitol Police when many of us went down and protested for our rights. I think it was over 90 people from the District of Columbia were arrested. And I talked to a lot of the statehood advocates while I was there, people who have been protesting for statehood longer, certainly, than I have, about what has been the strategy, what has worked, what has not worked, and what are we going to do differently. It's a travesty, and I've heard you talk about it, and I appreciate it. We especially like our friends from all over the region to recognize what the problem is in the District of Columbia, recognize how it hurts us, and what they can do. When we have great friends in Maryland, and I was so pleased to hear Rushern on your show talk about what Governor O'Malley and other elected officials in Maryland think. But we need those kind of partnerships in Virginia. We've had supporters in Virginia as well. But it's going to take a national strategy to get it done. And as unfair as it may seem, we also have to be good advocates for ourselves down on Capitol Hill.
Okay, what if you could talk about, I'll go back to this for a second, I'll run through a couple of things on that Mayor Gray touts as his reason well, first of all, he hadn't said he's running, but I think that this is a precursor to why he would say that he should run, and that is that homicides are down to a 50-year low. The district has added more than 1,100 people a month coming into the district. It's hadn't been this populous since 1970. Education enrollment is now 81,000 students, has growing at a rate not seen in 45 years, and fiscal responsibility was just clearly something he stated that there's $1 million+ surplus, and as soon as he said that, I asked him if I could borrow $20.
Right.
But what would you say is the primary difference from your vision to make Washington, D.C. a better place, and why are you more qualified, capable, and able to be mayor than anyone else that might run?
Well, Rock, I think that the voters are going to decide. So you started off by saying that the mayor deserves another 4 years. Well, that's a question for the voters, and that's correct. Exactly why we're going to be out for the next year talking to them, and they're going to get to decide. I think, and certainly I've been on the council for 6 years, and so I'm going to pat myself on the back along with everybody else for the reason the district has come to this this point of fiscal stability.
Give you some credit also.
Yes, absolutely. Last time I checked, the council had the power of the purse and the final say on the budget, and so a lot of people have gotten us to this point. So I think that it's important for us certainly to embrace the successes of our past and the successes of past administrations, and it's also important for us to look to the future. This is what people are telling me across the District of Columbia, that they see a lack of kind of urgency and focus, and they want to make sure that our government has the full attention of all leaders, and is energetic about the future. And that's what I see as the difference.
Let me be urgent and get Coach Lou on the line. Thank you for holding.
How you doing? Good morning.
I'm good. We're short on time, so kind of make it quick, and I'm sure Muriel will do the same.
I feel Muriel is a good candidate because she's for the people. You know, like she said, that the councilman set the tone for the city in the direction that was going. The city was already moving 4 years ago before he even got to the mayor thing. He's not a person that be out there on the street like Muriel be out there trying to talk and act with the people, especially as the seniors. The seniors are the ones that teach the younger ones how to be out there, you know, and get out there and vote. Your vote count. You know, at one time blacks wasn't getting out there and vote because they feel though the people wasn't for them. So I feel though, not just saying I know Muriel, I feel though as I watched her on ANC and how she grew, you know, she grew into, you know, she's for the people. And she has my vote, and she has a lot of people, followers that with me have their vote for her.
Thanks, Lou.
Lou, thank you very much for calling. You know, I certainly am of the belief that strong competition creates better government.
Absolutely.
And the more talented people that run for office, the better off at the end of the day that the citizens can be. This is going to be a race that we are going to look forward to. I want to ask you one quick question.
But let me say this, Rob.
Yes.
This is not an exercise for us in just going around because there's nothing better to do. This is a race that we fully intend to win. And this is the type of encouragement that we're getting across the city and the energy even since last week. I've been extremely encouraged by it. So I'm going to tell you what one of my constituents told me when I called her. She said, well, Muriel, step out there on faith and a good record. And I said, that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to put together a great team, and we're going to run an energetic, smart campaign. And then hopefully next year this time we'll be talking to you about getting ready to take the lead of the city.
Thanks for coming on the Rock Newman Show.
Thanks, Rock.
That's a wrap for the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock hour. We're going to pause for the cause and be back shortly for a very interesting hour talking about hip-hop music, its impact, censorship, lyrics that have been banned, and all the rest regarding Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, and we're going to have a great studio participation on The Rock Newman Show.
The Rock Newman Show.